Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at some code we wrote a few videos ago and see if we can reuse it for what we've got here, the book parser we want to create. This all books page that we made in the last video takes in the entire HTML content and builds a beautiful soup object so that we can then search in it. Then it's got a books property that searches for our locator and then passes each tag it finds into our book parser. We mentioned that we wrote a similar book parser earlier on, so let's have a look at it. I'm just going to bring it in from my other screen just so you can see it. We wrote this parsed item class earlier on in this section, which took the entire page content and built a beautiful soup object. And then it had a few properties like name, link, price, and so forth that used self.soup in order to find something inside this page. And as you can see, it used sort of some locators and it then selected things and it went on to extract the title and the link and so forth from different things. What you may not have noticed is that the content of the HTML that we looked at earlier on in the section is actually the same content that's going to come in to our book parser in our other project. We've got here the article with class product pod, we've got the sort of P start rating, we've got an H3 with an A tag inside. It's the same thing. We're going to get essentially the entirety of this thing into our book parser. So we can pretty much reuse everything that we've got here, except instead of receiving the page content, our book parser is going to receive the tag, which is already a beautiful soup object. So let's go ahead and copy this into a new class. I'm going back here to my project. I've moved the parsed item we wrote earlier on in the section to another screen. We're going to right click onto our parsers project, onto our parsers package, and create our book parser. Okay. Then we're going to copy the parsed item, and I'm just going to copy it and then we're going to make a few changes. So I'm going to copy the parsed item here and I'm going to rename it to book parser. And then we are going to make a few changes. We're going to first of all import the locators. So we're going to do from locators, book locators, import book locators. And then we're going to replace all instances of the parsed item locators that we no longer need for these book locators. Notice how previously we already dealt with using regular expressions to get the price out and things like that. So we're going to review that quickly, but we're not going to go into too much detail as to how that works because we've already seen that. And instead of the page, as we mentioned earlier, we're now going to get a sort of a parent element. And we no longer need to use beautiful soup here because the parent is already a beautiful soup object. Whenever you find something with beautiful soup, the result of finding that is a beautiful soup object that you can search on. So you can potentially find a specific object and then use that object to find other things and so forth. So that's quite nice. I don't like self.soup as a name. I'm going to call it self.parent just so it's a bit more explicit